Hello and welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah and I am with Ari and Adam. We are the writers of Obojima, and this is our weekly writers meeting where we sit down, we talk D&D, we talk Obojima, come up with some cool ideas, or just talk in general about writing, and we're doing it. We're talking. We're not writing anything, but instead we are helping you write. No, we're talking about inspiration / influence / what you had a word for it? What is it? What is the word I'm missing?
Yeah, just basically like what's the source material that inspires us for Obojima, and a lot of it's pretty evident, but like being able to walk through it and talk about things that maybe aren't so evident, but then we kind of have the Obojima take on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, so. I think it'd be cool. I think it's just interesting to go and say like, hey, if you want to see what we're picking up on, go watch this thing or read this book or listen to this story, and maybe you can kind of start to figure out where we're heading on some of these things, and where we're starting, rather, not where we're heading, where we started, and maybe you'll be inspired yourself. Now, obviously, let's just get them out of the way. Studio Ghibli.
Oh my goodness.
I say it wrong every time, but obviously that's there. I think if I were to pick a handful of films from that personally I think do a great job of representing like Obojima, I would say Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Princess Mononoke is one that we bring up quite often.
It's interesting because like there's also a range in tone even among them, right? Like Obojima has its tonal core, but when you look at like the influences, it's almost like a lot of them start to define even the edges of what the tone is. Like Miyazaki has Mononoke has a bunch of really charming parts in it. I think about a lot of the villagers from Irontown and stuff like that, and but it's also one of the heavier films, right? Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about like this full on samurai daimyo battles going on and all this kind of stuff, and it's more brutal than a lot of the other films.
Head exploding arrow action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But there's also like a lot of like little charming bits like the Kodama and everything like that. But still tonally, it's at the far end of what Obojima would be in terms of seriousness. But like Howl's Moving Castle also deals with war. There's a lot of, there's this kind of recurring theme here. You're looking at like Porco Rosso is the looming war, and it's the interwar period and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of heavy themes, and it's like finding the charm within a lot of those themes.
Like Kiki's Delivery Service is probably closest to
Obojima, good point.
As like far as like tonally, and also like conflict and what a player might experience, like just like how they problems that you need to solve instead of like I'm gonna go slay something. It's like, oh, I need a my cat doesn't speak anymore. Like, oh, okay, how do I solve that problem? My spirit cat.
I think if you imagine a spectrum, a scale from one to the other, there's My Neighbor Totoro, and then you can kind of list the movies as they progressively get more serious. And it ends, I think Obojima ends at Princess Mononoke as the darkest tone. I think you could represent Obojima through this spectrum by like, the lightest of tones being My Neighbor Totoro and the darkest of tones being Princess Mononoke. I think you could fit a lot of things in there. I think the one film that maybe is, there's a lot of great things in it, but maybe I wouldn't put on the list, it would be Nausicaa. Weirdly enough, even though I think Nausicaa is amazing.
Nausicaa's a trip, yeah.
Nausicaa's a trip. It's very good, and there's a lot of great stuff that you could throw in there. I think overall, the story and like the kind of the world endingness of it all feels a little bigger and grander in scope than Obojima tends to want to offer.
As well.
Yeah, it's a little sci-fi.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which I mean, there's plenty of. Like, I love the gliders, and I think those work just fine in Obojima. The guns, obviously, we've removed guns from Obojima, so some of those things, but there's also, there's a lot to take from Nausicaa.
I mean, Nausicaa's psychedelic. I mean, this doesn't go that far.
Yeah,
but
I
Nausicaa,
think
it gets pretty
I think
far
you
out
could
there.
potentially remove Nausicaa from the list and be okay. But that being said,
But still watch it if you haven't.
Still
Oh my
definitely
gosh,
watch it.
yeah.
Or read it. Yeah.
And then obviously the next lowest hanging fruit on like the inspiration. These are, the two series or collections would be Legend of Zelda. And so like when I look at Legend of Zelda is very like save the princess, save the world type situation. And I don't see that very often within Obojima. That's the kind of thing that we're avoiding in Nausicaa. But what I think those do very well is the style of conflict and adventure never feels like too, like whenever I'm fighting in Legend of Zelda, it always feels like it almost feels lighthearted.
Yeah, it's humorous.
The conflicts are never that like crazy, and that's kind of what I was going with. Because in D&D is very aggressive, and so like I wanted to tone it down to where Legend of Zelda is. And I think that's where we get a lot of this. Plus, there's just an amazing world building and development, a lot of fun things you can take from those games.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm not thinking about. I think I'm replaying just like Breath of the Wild in my head, and the idea is like when you fight monsters, there's no corpse after you beat them, right?
Yeah.
They just puff of smoke or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of games that happens, but like it just feels even more right in a Legend of Zelda style game. I just think that's.
And like in Zelda, the premise is you go and you see a little group of bokoblins and they're all hanging out and they're eating a fish and they're chatting and whatever. And you go in and you wipe them all out and you collect their guts and their horns and their teeth and you make stuff with it. Like that is psychotic.
Grisly.
But it is charming and lighthearted and fun. So it's like the flavor of the game just kind of eradicates this like horrifyingly bad thing that you're doing as Link.
Well, imagine if instead you kill them and then their bodies are there and you have to like pull the teeth out and gut them. And so like that is
they're just sparing you that.
game.
That part is just assumed.
Yeah.
You have your like
Hold on, I have my skinning knife here.
you have your Sheikah pliers and you go and pull them like you pull it out of their little bokoblin skulls.
Yep.
And the thing is that they're not ever seen raiding or being jerks.
Are you saying we're the villains?
Yeah, I'm saying if you really think about it, yeah, Zelda, they're grim.
We do see them. They waylay travelers sometimes.
They bully
Oh,
travelers.
that's true. You do see that. Okay, so then it's all justified. I feel better about it. Yeah.
All of them have to go.
It's all justified. Let's take them all out.
They all have to go. But, there is also the thing, like when the red moon rises, then they all come back. It's like, okay, well, they respawn, and I'm just, I'm not really murdering and taking their body parts to make potions.
But I think even before that, Legend of Zelda games prior to Breath of the Wild, I think also have like a very... like they're just it's lighthearted.
It's
and
cartoony,
conflict.
yeah.
I think
yeah.
the biggest obviously a huge inspiration is Ocarina of Time for me. It's one of my favorite games. Even in the conflicts, there is a sense of whimsy that you get where you're like, whoa, like there's a little trick to getting around this. Like I have to bounce the Deku Nut back with my shield. Like I can't just go and chase it. Like there's always like. It just felt like all of the creatures had like a story and it was interesting and it really tied to the world in this fun way. And so, yeah, that's obviously another heavy inspiration. But I don't want to get stuck on these things because I want to talk about other bits of information. We've talked about Legend of Zelda. We've talked about Ghibli films over and over and over and over again. So what are other things? And let's just also get Avatar out of the way. We mentioned Avatar once a podcast. Here it is. Watch Avatar The Last Airbender. It's
Super
great.
good.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
You don't need any explanation on our part. What are some other things that we
I think we gotta get
like?
Naruto out of the way as well.
I say Naruto all the time.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Okay.
about what about it?
What
Okay,
about it?
so-
Come
I wanna
on.
know.
Okay, here's the thing. Naruto in itself is very violent and bloody and like fox demons and they obliterate people.
Everybody's a ninja.
And it's all this. Everyone's a ninja and it's very combat oriented. But there are some great things about it. One thing that I really like is in early Naruto. It's hard to be like, go watch Naruto because
It's like 8.
it's a lot of episodes. It is a lot of episodes. You can get synopsis and stuff like that. Like people can explain it too. But I think the things that they do, the world development they've done, I think is incredibly interesting. I think the world is really unique. I think their magic system, which they call chakra, is really unique. And kind of set the grounds, like Naruto was early on, and it set the grounds for a lot of like action shonen style things. There's plenty of shonen comics and manga and anime that happened before that, but like Naruto encompasses such a wide variety of tropes that like it is that you see them repeated in other shows. So it's just like it's a good basis. I also think they do a fantastic job of developing characters and getting you to care about certain things. And then like, tying powers and abilities back to characters and continuing to develop the world through like in a new show, you might be like, this character has the super smash ability and they're about to smash everyone to pieces. And in Naruto, they'll be like, this person, this is the thing that you've learned. And by the way, it was made by this character and this helps build the world out. And then when you get to see that character, there's even more context to this ability and there's even more, the reason they made it. And I think it just, what it does is every time you kind of like peel the layer back, you realize that there's more going on, and it continues to, there's all of these intermingling lines that connect each other. And it's great. And then there's just a bunch of cool ideas. There's a lot of really interesting concepts and ideas and connection to Japanese folklore and mythology. A lot of like the names that are used in Naruto all connect to like real Japanese fantasy and mythology, like Amaterasu, which is like something we were talking about, like Amaterasu, like the sun god and on all of this stuff happens to be the name of one of their spells. Like there's just a lot of connections to folklore that isn't necessarily explained, but it's fun to learn about. And I think it's just interesting. That's
interesting. Like as, because as a writer or, a group of writers, you've got to start somewhere. And of course, as you're developing an IP or you're developing characters and all that, you are discovering new stuff. So you start at this beginning and then you're adding more and more layers on it. It's kind of, the same thing that we're doing with Obojima. Like this book has the beginning.
Yeah.
This is like the bare bones of bare bones. And as we develop more stuff, we're adding layers into it, sort of like what you're saying with Naruto. So as you go along, you're finding more and more.
It just becomes richer and richer.
Yeah. So
that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say about Naruto. Okay. Actually, hold on. There's a really great Naruto fact I have that I think will help set the tone of the richness of this. And it's going to get dark here, but it's going to come back around.
Okay.
After the Hiroshima bombing, there were people that witnessed the explosion.
Wow.
And it blinded them. Oof. So they have these burns on their eyes and their eyes turn pale and they can't see anymore. And the creators of Naruto added a clan of people that have this blindness and gave them incredible ocular prowess and vision. Like they had super sight essentially as like an homage to this thing. Man. I think just to set that in, the reason I love Naruto is because of how deep they go and how much effort they put into the world development. And that's something maybe I aspire to do with Obojima. Is always like, if we're going to do something, I think we were talking about this with the Konotori and some of the other things, like if we're going to name something, if we're going to put the effort in, let's put meaning behind it. And I think that's really where I want to go with Obojima, and maybe where I'm inspired by Naruto so much is I see the effort. It's there. Yeah. It's good. And there's so much to eat. There's a big platter. It's a feast. 800 episodes. Enjoy.
It's a banquet.
It kind of teeters out at the end. You can only do so many episodes before you kind of jump the shark. So it's not amazing at the end, but still.
Hey.
You'll cry.
What a ride.
You'll cry in season 2. Oof. It's hard to do.
Man, tears by 2.
All right, I've talked enough. Somebody else jump in here. What's something else?
Oh, well, I have to go to Mushi-Shi. So that is probably my all-time favorite anime. Like, it was understated. It had really kind of cool, creepy sort of monster of the week vibe to it. The main character, Ginkgo, who is a Mushi master. It also interesting metaphysics about how Mushi work, and his way of dealing with it, and that it kind of comes from a lineage of Mushi masters.
And Mushi are like spirits, essentially.
Mushi are like, these little spirits that are invisible to pretty much all humans, but Mushi masters can see them. And there's just all this great story weaving, the problems that are solved, like the kind of cool things that Mushi do are just really unique, and some of them are unsettling. It's kind of a spooky vibe to it, but just a really cool vibe to that whole series.
I watched it on your recommendation, and it was really cool because at first I thought it was going to be like exclusively Monster of the Week, but I also like that you start getting like more and more information very like slowly about Ginkgo, about the Mushi master himself, and really interesting character. But yeah, just in terms of like vibe, it's just it's so cool. Like I just want to like spend time with that. Yeah, it's really good.
It's the first episode's a very slow opening, which I think it does a great job of like setting.
It's not an action show.
No. Like it's very interesting.
It's very, the thing I like about it is that the way they do it is it's very paced, very slow. It's like the whole thing breathes. That they're playing with sound effects. Like you'll hear the buzzing of crickets, and sometimes that'll be the only thing you're hearing. And then the character Ginkgo, who is voiced by I think it's Travis. I forget the guy's name. But he does a brilliant job doing the English dub version of it. And I really like how he does it, because he has Ginkgo talk in this very sort of thoughtful, slow way, and it just it's an experience. I dug it. It's I just love it. So can't say enough about it. Apparently,
I need to find the English version. I've been watching the Japanese.
The Japanese version's great, but the English version,
people are gonna hate me in the comments. I prefer English dubs on animes. Not to say I don't like.
I mean, if they're well done, I love them.
Yeah, but like, I'm dyslexic. I can't watch this guy do cool things and also read at the same time.
Yeah, well, I find the same thing. Like on dubbed versions, I'm just reading it, and all this cool stuff's happening up here. Yeah, and I cannot focus on the action. But if I just focus on the action, then I'm like, I can pick up one of every 100 words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's because we're lame.
My Japanese is no bueno.
There was another one that I wanted to bring up that I was just talking about that I thought, Frieren. If you haven't watched Frieren yet, Frieren's very fantastic. Actually, Frieren is amazing. It's an amazing anime that's, I think, came out like a year ago. And although we don't have elves in Obojima like traditional elves, I think it is the most interesting take on elves I've seen in a long time. The concept, of course, being this mage called Frieren, who is an elf in a fantasy world, and she is part of the group that defeats the Demon King, this evil person that like is terrorizing the world. And she did that 100 years ago. And the adventurer, the human adventurer, and the dwarf and the cleric have all passed. And now she is still alive. And everyone talks about that bygone era and the great hero that saved the world. But they don't really remember her. And she has a new group of adventurers. And basically the show's very slow. You get some very epic moments, but the show's mostly very slow pacing. And it's just her going through the towns that she's been in dozens of times with a new adventuring party, new people, little kids that she met are now, are 90 and have dementia and don't remember her. And she's just going through and being like, the people are like, oh, the hero saved us. Like, you won't believe it, but the hero was here 100 years ago. And she's like, yeah, I was with Heimdall when we were here. Like, I remember visiting here. Like, this town was 6 huts the last time I came. And it's such an interesting take on like a character with longevity who's existed like
that's representing elves correctly in a fantasy setting like that. Like we've talked about this before. One of the reasons that we made the elves the way we did in Obojima was like elves that live that long there's an absurdity to it that like level 1 elf at 100 years. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have 100 years
Yeah.
of experience.
Yeah.
It's like they only speak like you get as an elf, you get an extra language. It's like, how about an extra 10 languages?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and all the skills. You know,
You've probably been to all the places that you're about to go to.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really interesting. And to me, that's interesting for gameplay. And I know that because of balance, they don't do that. But
Yeah.
that makes an elf more interesting, at least to me from a story perspective. That's really cool.
It's fantastic. It's so interesting, her take on magic collection and being there's an amazing scene where they go to like become an A-class mage and like her apprentice is with her and they're like, oh yeah, like you're not an A-class mage, like you're the strongest mage we've ever seen. And she's like, well, I have this, and she like pulls out a token and they're like, I don't know what that is. And she's like, oh man, 5 kings ago this meant like I was the strongest mage in the land, and now it's
wizard.
now it's nothing. And it's
wow.
like, this used to get me anywhere I wanted, and I guess no one knows what it is anymore. Like, such an interesting take. But the point I'm bringing it up is, like Mushi-Shi, there's 5-6 episodes where it's just like she's just walking, going to villages, they solve a little problem. There's amazing things where it's like the story takes place over a long time, and every time she goes to a village, she's like, maybe we should stay here for a couple of years. And all of her human companions are like, no,
a couple of years,
a week at best. Or they like,
interesting. Yeah.
they're traveling through the snowy times, and they'll be like, oh, it's like they'll build a lodge and they'll just sit there until the snow's gone. They're like, there's no point in traveling in the snow. It's too cold. Let's just live here for a couple of months. It's so interesting.
That's really cool.
And the pacing is fantastic. And the other reason I want to bring it up, and something that I think you can really use in Obojima, especially with spirits that have lived longer, is the reminiscence, like remembering a time past and connecting the dots between things that are occurring now and how they came to be. Like having an elder spirit that is like a couple hundred years old that remembers before Dara or something like that.
That's cool.
And it's like, Rokala, before it was here, was my home.
Yeah.
And like
Heavily forested.
I made a deal with the first Dara to like leave and leave this place for him. And it's like, that's such an interesting way for you to develop. And I think Frieren does an amazing job of like showing time pass and how an action of a character from 100 years ago affects today. And I think that's certainly worth watching. It's a season. It's like 30 episodes.
That's great. Good
Fantastic.
recommendation. That's cool.
Fantastic.
Check it out.
Think about like Mushi. Just one last thing, but like with Mushi-Shi, it's like one of the things is like that. There's no, Ginkgo is not a warrior. He's not a fighter. He's more of a medicine man or a shaman who kind of goes around from village to village helping. And it's a great resource for dungeon masters to try to get into how to have problems and how to have adventures that are exciting and interesting and compelling without combat. So, which is a lot of kind of what Obojima's vibe is about. But
Yeah. Also, and another tick mark for why that's awesome for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me there are a few things. I mean, obviously we can keep going, but I think in more recent memory, which I watched after we started working on this, was Delicious in Dungeon. Just that to me gets
fantastic.
like tone correct in terms of being funny at times, being charming most of the time, but then hitting you really hard with some weighty stuff every once in a while. Like it does a really good job of mixing that up, and it has my favorite dwarf probably. Amazing. Like, it's just a fun ride. Some older stuff that I consumed that I really liked that kind of informed a lot of like the tone and approach to problems and the world and stuff like that of Obojima were 2 comic book series that I really like. Is Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. It's really, if you ever want kind of like a study on like kind of one-shot stories and how to structure kind of shorter stories, highly recommend it. It's really great art. He's a master storyteller. Super fun, and I don't know how many issues there are now, but there are a lot of issues of Usagi.
A lot of issues.
It's really good. And then for tone, This is probably it could be a little bit more cartoony, but also I'll just say the comic, then I'll talk about it. It's Bone by Jeff Smith.
Mm-hmm.
That does such a good job of like you're in this whimsical place, and as the story progresses, it becomes more serious as these kind of goofier, cartoony characters get embroiled in this kind of serious epic, and the way that whole story is plotted out is also pretty masterful. And so tonally, it's like that's a place that I want to go to. One of they're basically most of the series takes place in the valley.
Yeah,
and has the 3 bone cousins that are very cartoony in the way they look, and they enter the valley after getting lost, and then they get kind of wrapped up in the affairs of all the people who live in the valley.
yeah,
And the valley, what Jeff Smith does that is perfection is this is a place that I want to go to, and I want to live there, and I love the valley. So when something happens to it, I'm invested in the safety of this place that it's not real, but I love the valley and Jeff Smith's style is so charming, the way he draws. And so like, that's something that I took that a lot whenever I try to create something like, especially a D&D campaign, it's that sense of home that if something's going to happen to this, you're going to be devastated as a player. Right. And so we talked about this with Okiri.
yeah.
Another thing that influenced that for me was, the Dragonlance, the original Dragonlance trilogy, and what they did with the kind of starting location, Solace, where they have these these buildings that are built in the Valenwood trees, and it's like, oh, these are just epic tree houses, and they have the Inn of the Last Home, which is one of these places, and just that felt like home to me.
Yeah.
And so that's a concept that in Obojima, if you can establish that as a DM, or that's something that we were very conscious of when we were building out these, especially the starting locations. Like, you want to love these places.
Yeah.
And so these were big inspirations for me, the things that I were trying to bring into the approach for Obojima.
Yeah.
There's a really great, he's a part of the Dungeons and Dragons community. This guy, Rob Gruber, he lives way up in British Columbia in Canada, and he comes from this town. And he has established this community of role playing, but he dungeon masters for kids. And people have always asked him, like, what is the best way to dungeon master for young kids? Because like, how do you? So his my chats with him, super nice dude, and he basically sets that up. What Ari was talking about, where you have a home. And all the kids are the defenders of that home, and the home is being attacked, and so they kind of rally together and they save the town, and they're heroes, and so, but it's like this. It has this amazing like meta benefit where all these kids feel like they've done something epic, and they're all high-fiving each other, and it's great. But it's because they've set up all this like how cool the home is, and they've built their little things, and it's sort of like you've made your Animal Crossing island, and it's just like, oh, it's so cool, and then jerks are coming in, and you're like, oh, we got to defend it. So it's like you care about it so much that you
a Nook with a sword and shield.
Yeah.
Timmy and Tommy.
Yeah. Ari's mentioned that. Is like, wouldn't it be awesome if like
Tom
you
Nook
got to defend your island?
That's the new Switch.
Yeah, Sir Tommy. Yeah.
Animal Crossing Red Dawn.
Hey, when I started playing Animal Crossing, and one of the items you can get is like those tank traps, those concrete tank traps you could throw out on the beach. I was like, do I need this for something? Like, is something coming for my island? And I was a little disappointed.
They're going to storm.
Yeah, I was actually kind of a little disappointed that there wasn't a thing.
Assault boats with their little ramps come down, and
Tom Nook over the intercom. They're doing an amphibious attack.
He's like, oh my god,
grab the children. The subtitles. The subtitles underneath.
Run for the hills.
Oh,
there is no hill.
Tommy's dead. They've got Tommy.
That actually also makes me think of like Mouse Guard. Mouse Guard's another like very like Mouse Guard can be what just went
the transition to Mouse Guard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, it can go from like super adorable and charming to like, perilous. Like,
I mean, even the perils are charming, right?
That's
like
true.
when you see these mice who are fighting, snakes as though like the snake is a dragon, right? Like The premise is charming, even though it's brutal as hell. Like David Peterson's art is cute and gorgeous, but it's
but
brutal.
the snake is a snake.
Yeah.
Like when you have these like little anthropomorphized mice fighting a like actual snake. And the snake's horrifying. You know, it's like.
Or like a snapping turtle and stuff.
Geez.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, but that's another thing. It's like, how do you have a charming, fun, like not brutal setting, but how do you have conflict and how do you have peril within it? It's another kind of similar resource to like use for creating like situation in Obojima where it's like you're fighting stuff, but it's not sort of like bokoblins in Zelda. You don't realize, because they're silly and because they're kind of cartoony, the bokoblins are like they're coming after you and they're like kind of nuts.
Yeah.
You don't, it's okay to.
It's okay to pull their teeth out.
Yeah. It's okay to, roll a flaming log into their party. So.
On a different note, there's a comic series, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, the two of you, or at least pseudo-familiar with, is called Saga. Saga is a great comic book.
Uh-huh.
And although it's much more adult than a lot of these other things, what I think Saga does very well is create really human characters with flaws. Also just unique characters in general. Prince Robot IV, outstanding character design. There is like some cute stuff. I think they do a great mixture of like this is a thing I'm familiar with, and they've just turned it on its head just a little to feel like kind of weird and like cool and intriguing.
Definitely weird. It's the weird factor of just like it's super innovative in a lot of like the designs, and a lot of that like Fiona Staples art is unbelievable. Yeah. But like the flawed characters is a thing. Even it's a great study in that of just like how do you create interesting characters with their own foibles, because like Prince Robot, as powerful as he is a broken character.
He's very broken.
Like that's a good one.
And aren't they like raising a child in that?
It's like they get pregnant.
And it's like that is a very different kind of plot. Like
For those who don't know, Prince Robot is a robot with a TV head, and there's a whole
CRTV
head. There's a whole people who with
all
TV,
the TV heads.
Yeah.
But
and they emote with the images that flash across the screen. It's wonderful.
But just like really interesting ways to play with story, and interesting like this is a problem that every most human beings have, like raising a child. How do you do it in this environment?
Yeah.
In the middle of war.
In the middle of war.
In between two groups of people that hate each other.
Yeah. It's just like, whoa, like.
I think another thing that Saga does very well is makes villains that you kind of hate to love.
Yeah.
Where you're like, they are, like Prince Robot's the villain. He's one of the villain. There's also the bounty hunter character, which I can't remember his name.
The Will.
Yeah.
Oh, the Will is great.
The Will's great. And also just like and
Lying Cat.
Lying Cat's fantastic.
Lying.
The Will alone is such an interesting take. How many times in a story do you have a villainous or like a character that's like an antagonist that for a completely separate reason from the main plot line is like broken and kind of like gives up? Like what if like, Jabba the Hutt was always hunting Han Solo, and then halfway through he's like, and my like my daughter died and now I don't care anymore. And you're like, whoa, what? That like how that, and now it's just like, and every once in a while we just check up on Jabba the Hutt and he's like, I don't want to run the cartel anymore. And you're like, what is going on right now? Like, this is crazy.
This isn't fun anymore.
Yeah. And so that's just such
job.
an interesting take to have like a character, like imagine in a D&D game where it's like, this person is like your antagonist and they're always poking at you and you're at odds, and then one day you just find them like alone in a bar and they're just like by themselves. Like, what an amazing so there's a lot of character stuff that you
just
can
like
find in Saga.
even the way Saga it's actually really interesting. I never thought about it in D&D terms, but it's a great way to showcase recurring NPCs and how your disposition toward that NPC can evolve over time. because there are so many characters in there that are like allies of convenience, but when their goal, your goal and their goal are just running in the same direction, but they are not the same. And
Yeah.
at some point, they're going to be at odds.
Yeah.
And like Saga is so good. This, Brian K. Vaughan is that's kind of his deal. He's
Yeah.
really good at having these nuanced characters that where like the allegiances don't change because the character is fickle. They change because the goals never changed,
Yeah.
right? But but what's presented, it's really good. I need to reread that now. It's like a study in
Yeah.
NPCs.
I haven't read it since they started up the new stuff, so I'd be
It's
interested
just our
to see
long
it.
hiatus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But very fantastic. Let me just, because we're running out of time here, let me jump in some other things. Ghost Cat of
Ghost Cat Anzu.
Anzu.
Oh, man. Yeah,
very
it's
good.
really good.
Very fantastic. It is a similar to Ghibli.
Well, they also, it's like I think you were saying when you recommended that, it's like how they handle demons is very interesting.
Is fantastic.
Yeah.
An amazing take on demons, and also driving goals for characters, and how NPCs can come to help you and things like that. Like development over getting NPCs on your side is really interesting.
And maybe also how the spirit world works in Obojima. Not necessarily that, the dead
Yeah.
go there, but it's like that there's, it's very hard to get to the spirit world. That the spirit world isn't just something everybody's hopping in and out of.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I had one because I wanted to kind of pick Adam's brain about. So you mentioned earlier, I think it was last night when we were chatting, Tintin.
Oh, Tintin. Yeah.
Tintin's great.
Tintin is great. Talk about adventure. Like I remember just devouring those as kids, and just it's lighthearted, it's fun, it's innocent, but there's all kinds of drama and action that's happening. Great characters, great NPCs, great locations, cool puzzles. There's like continuing adventure, and also sidekicks like Snowy could be like a total companion spirit. It's like something really fun that like kind of hangs out. And Snowy never becomes like goes beyond the intelligence of a dog. It's like the smartest dog you could have and the best pal
Without
you could
being
ever.
anthropomorphic in any way.
Yeah, which I love that. Like Snowy always held into this like sort of rule that it wasn't gonna, Snowy was never going to become like, I'm going to like pilot the ship or fly the plane like Tintin was knocked out. Like
Two other films I'll jump in here really quick to throw in. I'm not going to go super deep into them, but should put on everyone's radar. This one is The Boy and the Beast. It's a film from 2015. And it's basically like the kid who slips into an alternate universe where he's raised by like a bear hybrid man, and they go on adventures, and it's like a swordsmith type sword.
Yeah, like the look of that movie, I didn't think about that, is just very squarely influenced.
Oh yeah. And then another good one, which came out in 2024, is Train to the End of the World. It's a drama anime, and it is about a little girl goes missing, and so these three girls come together and get on a train to go to like an abandoned train that leads them to the outside world to try to find their lost friend, and they're unsure if they get back. But an amazing like train traveling through like very wandering line feeling, where it's like people existing on a train going through fantastical places. Both recommendations. I wanted to get those in there before. So back to you, Bob.
I think like tonally also like to pull from sort of like, I remember like kind of thinking of spectrum, like on one side you can get really cartoony and lighthearted. On the darkest end, like Mononoke was sort of like one of our things, but I'm thinking also like in the Japanese horror like Ringu and or The Ring, and like The Grudge, or there was this manga called Uzumaki where like just this crazy spiral starts to freak out, and like the whole town is kind of taken over by it, and you can get sucked into this kind of weird, bizarre horror. I think Obojima's got a space for some of that, where things can get really kind of creepy and like
Really
supernatural.
unsettling.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
go into supernatural horror here. So it's like those kinds of movies would be fun to just kind of dip a little bit and take a little bit from that. So it's like, ooh, things got a little.
Yeah, take the fantastical part and leave out the too much.
Yeah, the
too much
murder.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, leave out the murder, but yeah, take the creepiness. Like the idea that something could crawl out of a TV, like a spirit could come out of a TV. That's interesting. Or that there's something like the VHS tapes. There's some kind of spell that's on there that if you played it, something weird could happen or it could affect a whole town. So you kind of mash up The Ring and like Mushi-Shi, where you get like, oh, these first age items or devices do something.
That's pretty damn cool. Sorry,
Oh.
I just wanted to nod along. Basically, that's really cool. That's like a really cool Obojima way of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to ring off before we drop out? Any other things that you just say with no explanation, just go watch this?
Nope, that's everything I've ever seen.
That's right.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, other ones I reference all the time. You get Demon Slayer and you go watch
Demon
Jujutsu
Slayer.
Kaisen. Those are both great.
Yep. I mean, Demon Slayer's fun for ideas. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to come up with a cool demon for your, like your big bad. I mean, just the idea with the ones that they've got like the numbers, like the kanji with the number on their eye, and you kind of like can detect who they are.
I mean, I think one of the ones that I go to a lot just for inspiration of just like how magic is depicted in things. It's not really necessarily Obojima, but it still just like influences me. Is Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Full Metal
I mean,
Alchemist is amazing.
Oof.
Just like
There's
it's
so much good.
it's just so much fun to like just to sit in that world.
Also, early Dragon Ball Z, or not Dragon Ball Z, early Dragon Ball,
Mhm.
which is like kind of slower and a little, there's some adult
Mhm.
things in there. But like, again, just like a lot of fantastic stuff is happening. A very amazing mix of like future and like fantasy is, like, cause like Goku is like a little boy who looks like a monk and is a master of karate and has all these crazy superpowers and like has a crystal ball that's like gonna give him powers. And then some girl who's like the daughter of the head of a corporation shows up and is tracking the magic crystal ball that he has and is like, oh yeah, like there's science to this. And like there's like, there's a fun mixture of like
It's cool.
whimsical, like I imagine the scenes that they used to do for the covers of the book, and it's like he's riding an ostrich and she's on like a hover bike and they're like speeding through the desert, and it's like, wow, just like a lot of fantastical stuff. There's dinosaurs that exist, like they fight dinosaurs
That's the
for
best.
for random reasons, and then the show, like the epitome of the show is them training to join a tournament. Like it just very weird, but yeah, there's a lot of inspiration you can find in early Dragon
Also,
Ball.
like the Goonies.
Yeah, Goonies is
Yes.
great.
The
Yes.
Goonies is just like for a fun, like you had a young stewards all gathered together and they go on this crazy adventure, and that's totally fun.
You should watch Stand By Me because it's set in
Stand
Oregon,
By Me.
and I
Yeah.
tell people to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's Goonies.
So is Goonies, both of them.
And you get to say Chopper. And then if you watch it, you'll understand what the rest of that sentence is and why Jeremiah's laughing.
With that, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I hope you enjoy. I mean, tell us if you've seen these, if there's anything else that you think is great Obojima inspiration, stuff that if you do go watch it and come back and let us know in the comments if you like it. I'd be interested to see
Yeah, we're
what
always looking
people's
for
thoughts.
more stuff to watch.
Find us on Discord, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, all the places, Spotify, other things. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time.